love. It's a word whispered in the dark, a promise etched on a ring, a symbol of eternal commitment, a force that can bind two souls across a crowded room, making them feel like the only two people in the world. But love, as we all know, is a fickle beast, unpredictable and often challenging. It can soar to unimaginable heights, filling our lives with joy and laughter, only to crash back down to earth, leaving us in despair, leaving behind a trail of broken hearts and shattered dreams, memories that haunt us. In the tapestry of human experience, love and loss are threads forever intertwined, creating a complex and often painful pattern. We enter into relationships with hope, with dreams of forever dancing in our heads, imagining a future filled with happiness. But sometimes, despite our best intentions, love falters, and the dreams we cherished begin to fade. It fades, it fractures, it breaks, leaving us questioning everything. And we are left to pick up the pieces, to understand what went wrong, and to find the strength to move on, to rebuild our lives from the fragments. This is a journey into the heart of why marriages end, a deep dive into the reasons behind the dissolution of love. It's a collection of real stories, raw and honest, about the pain of separation, the complexities of commitment, and the emotional toll it takes, and the courage it takes to walk away, to start anew. From the gut-wrenching betrayal of infidelity to the slow, agonizing death of emotional neglect, we'll explore the myriad reasons why love falters and what we can learn from these heart-wrenching experiences to better understand ourselves and our relationships. Because in the wreckage of these broken unions, we find not just despair, but also the seeds of resilience, growth, and a deeper understanding of ourselves. Paving the way for a brighter future. Story of infidelity. The phone buzzed on the nightstand, a beacon in the darkness, its light cutting through the stillness of the night. Sarah reached for it, her heart quickening with a familiar mix of anticipation and dread, a feeling she had come to know all too well. It was Mark, her husband of 10 years, working late again. Or so she thought, as she tried to push away the nagging doubts that had been creeping in. As she glanced at the screen, a name she didn't recognize flashed across the display, sending a chill down her spine. Curiosity quickly morphed into a sickening feeling in the pit of her stomach, a gnawing sense of unease that she couldn't shake. Something wasn't right. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together in a way she dreaded. Later, as she confronted Mark, the truth spilled out like poison, each word searing her soul and confirming her worst fears. He confessed to an affair, a months-long entanglement that had shattered the foundation of their life together, leaving nothing but ruins. The betrayal cut deep, leaving Sarah reeling, lost in a sea of emotions that threatened to drown her. Anger, confusion, and a profound sense of loss washed over her in waves, each one more overwhelming than the last. How could the man who had vowed to love and cherish her, the father of her children, betray her in such a fundamental way? The question swirled in her mind, unanswered and haunting. Infidelity. It's a word that evokes a visceral reaction, a betrayal that strikes at the very core of a relationship, tearing apart the very fabric of trust. For Sarah, it was the ultimate deal breaker, a wound so deep that it proved impossible to heal, no matter how much time passed. The trust, once unshakable, had been irrevocably broken, leaving behind a chasm of pain and resentment that seemed insurmountable. The shattered remnants of their marriage, once a source of comfort and joy, now felt like a constant reminder of his deception, a painful echo of what once was. Story of divergent dreams. They met in the springtime of their lives, two ambitious souls drawn together by a shared passion for adventure and a hunger to make their mark on the world. In the beginning, their differences were a source of excitement, a vibrant tapestry woven from contrasting threads. He, the free-spirited artist, drawn to spontaneity and the beauty of the moment. She, the pragmatic planner, grounded in logic and driven by a need for security. But as the years unfolded, those once enticing differences began to feel more like insurmountable obstacles, creating a growing chasm between them. His creative pursuits often left her feeling financially insecure, while her need for stability felt stifling to his artistic soul. They argued about money, about their future, about the life they envisioned building together. The arguments, once passionate exchanges of ideas, became increasingly bitter, laced with resentment and a growing sense of disillusionment. Incompatibility. It's a slow burn, a gradual realization that two people, once so perfectly aligned, are now on divergent paths. Their dreams, once shared whispers on a summer night, now felt like distant galaxies, impossible to reconcile. The love they once shared, though real and fierce, wasn't enough to bridge the ever-widening gap between their hopes and aspirations. Story of the silent treatment. Emotional neglect and the slow death of intimacy. Silence can be golden, a refuge from the noise and chaos of the world. But in a relationship, silence can also be a weapon, a slow, agonizing form of torture that erodes intimacy and leaves behind a wasteland of unmet needs. For Emily, the silence was deafening. It lived in the empty spaces between her and Daniel, in the unanswered texts, the missed phone calls, the nights he spent lost in his work, oblivious to her quiet desperation. She craved connection, a listening ear, a warm embrace that whispered, "I see you, I hear you, you matter." But her pleas for attention fell on deaf ears, met with indifference and a frustrating inability to understand her emotional needs. The silence became a chasm, a tangible manifestation of their growing emotional distance. She felt invisible, unimportant, like a ghost haunting the periphery of his life. Emotional neglect. It's a silent killer of relationships, a slow poison that seeps into the cracks of intimacy, leaving behind a trail of resentment and despair. It's the absence of empathy, the inability or unwillingness to meet a partner's emotional needs, and it can be just as devastating as any physical betrayal. Story of ambition's price. When work consumes love and creates distance. From the moment they met, Liam's ambition was both intoxicating and intimidating. He was a man on a mission, driven by an insatiable desire to succeed. And for a while, she was swept up in his whirlwind of energy, energized by his passion and the thrill of building a life together. But as his career soared, she found herself increasingly alone, standing on the sidelines of his success, her own needs and desires fading into the background. Work trips became more frequent, late nights at the office the norm. He was physically present, but emotionally distant, his mind always racing ahead to the next deal, the next promotion, the next rung on the ladder of success. She tried to be understanding, to be the supportive partner he needed. But the resentment grew with each unanswered text, each missed dinner, each empty promise to make more time for their relationship. Work-life balance. It's a delicate dance, a constant negotiation between personal aspirations and the demands of a career. But when work consumes one partner, leaving the other feeling neglected and unimportant, it can create a chasm of resentment that's difficult to bridge. Story of the shadow within. Mental health, chaos, and the breakdown of trust. Mental health challenges can cast a long shadow over a relationship, testing the limits of love, patience, and understanding. These challenges often bring with them a sense of unpredictability and instability that can be hard to manage. For years, they navigated the ups and downs of his bipolar disorder with love and unwavering support. They became experts at managing the highs and lows, always finding a way to come back to each other. They celebrated the highs, weathered the lows, and held on tight through the storms. Each victory, no matter how small, was a testament to their resilience and commitment to one another. But as time went on, the cycles became more intense, the episodes more frequent, and the toll on their relationship increasingly difficult to bear. The emotional and physical exhaustion began to take its toll. The unpredictable nature of his illness brought chaos into their lives. Their once peaceful home became a battleground of emotions and uncertainty. Promises were broken, plans shattered, and the emotional roller coaster left her feeling drained and emotionally raw. The constant upheaval made it hard to find any sense of normalcy. She loved him deeply, but the constant worry, the fear of what each day might bring, began to chip away at her own well-being. The stress and anxiety became a constant companion. The trust that had once been the bedrock of their relationship slowly eroded, replaced by a growing sense of unease and a fear for her own safety and emotional well-being. The distance between them grew, creating a chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. Mental health is a critical aspect of overall well-being, and within a relationship, it requires open communication, empathy, and a commitment to seeking professional help. It's essential to address these issues head-on, with honesty and compassion. But when mental health challenges are ignored, minimized, or mishandled, they can create a toxic dynamic that ultimately destroys the foundation of trust and intimacy. The relationship can become a source of pain rather than support, leading to a heartbreaking end.